So if you still stay on with this meeting, it's your consent to allow us to record this meeting. And this presentation will be used as a resource for the Hammond Museum Tea Club, so that people could understand the elements of tea at a future date. And so again, my name is Martin Hara, and I am like a board member of the Hammond Museum. I'm also like an active member and advocate of the tea ceremony at the Hammond Museum through the enterprise called the Hammond Museum Tea Club, or UsuCha. And we are really fortunate to have several members that have very deep knowledge of the tea ceremony. And I would like to introduce to you again Mr. Michael Mckenna, who is he's a longtime member of Omotesenke Tea, and also like a practitioner and advocate of tea ceremony at the Hammond Museum. He will conduct he will host this particular Elements of Tea, episode 6, which we call Temae, which is the practice of tea. So, Michael, I hand it over to you, please.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Mckenna. I've been practicing tea first in Japan in the last 25 or 30 years, here in the New York area, and for many of those years at the Hammond. If you've been with us before for the earlier episodes of the Elements of Tea series, you'll have seen with us, we've looked at together, we've looked at the utensils and the other things, the concrete elements that make up cha no yu. We've looked at tea scrolls, we've looked at the tea flowers, the tea garden, and most recently at tea bowls. Tonight we look at something a little more abstract. We look at the temae, procedures for tea. If you look it up in a Japanese dictionary of the tea ceremony, the definition of temae is the method and order of preparing tea before a guest. Tonight we're going to see two segments of our presentation tonight will focus on this temae. Ed Papantonio-san will demonstrate the standard procedures for making thin tea according to the Omotesenke group. He's using the utensils that he has gathered over the years in his own tea room here in New York. You'll be able to see how the concrete things that we have been discussing over the last number of weeks, see how these fit together in the flow of the tea ceremony itself. Then after Ed's presentation, we are privileged to enjoy a distinctly non-standard procedure for preparing the tea. Komatsu Kazuko-san creates a mimed version of the procedures that it takes, procedures for preparing tea. This version she prepares for us tonight takes its hint from the story about two friends, too poor to have proper tea or tea utensils. In Tea Without a Bowl, MuanCha, she has created a version of the ceremony that demonstrates it as choreography, as a dance almost that has been honed over the last 400 years. So please enjoy the tea ceremony.
My name is Ed, and welcome to my tea house. I think by now, if you've watched the series on the elements of tea that the Hammond has offered, you have a good idea of what the tea ceremony is about. And I'm going to invite you into the tea house to take part in the tea ceremony. Normally, there is a host and a guest, but I'm going to be playing both roles this afternoon to demonstrate the four principles: wake, seijaku, harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. So if you keep those four principles in mind, the host and the guest exchange dialogue in a sense of harmony and respect. Similarly, they recall all the craftsmen and farmers who have brought about all the implements that they're going to use and created the tea that they're going to drink, the rain that has nourished the tea plants. They have cleaned themselves of all their hang-ups and their problems. They stay outside the tea room, and you'll see a lot of purification to evidence this. And in fact, in just a second, I'll show you as a guest the first step of purification. And this brings you to a sense of tranquility. As I do it, I will give you hints about what I'm doing, but let me tell you that the basic principle is that everything is cleaned before it's used. And everything means a tea bowl. Everyone has an individual tea bowl. And powdered tea is taken from a tea caddy with a bamboo scoop and put in the tea bowl. Boiling water is put on the tea. It's whisked with a bamboo whisk. It is served one bowl at a time to each guest. And then the other implements are a bamboo ladle to take water from both the kettle where water is boiling and from the cold tea container. And there's a rest for the kettle lid, which ultimately ends up next to the kettle, which the kettle sits on a brazier. And there is also a brass bowl that is used for water that is no longer clean. And the host makes the tea, serves the tea, the guest drinks the tea, thanks the host cleans up, and that's the end of the ceremony. At some point before the guest takes the tea, the guest will take a sweet, because the tea is kind of bitter. It's powdered tea, and that's the equivalent of the sugar in your coffee, if you will, beforehand. So as I said, I'll start. I'm going to play both roles. So I'll start as a guest, purifying himself outside the tea room before you go in. And as you can see right here, I'm at this basin, and I pick up some water. I wash my hands. I symbolically purify my mouth. And then I take a handkerchief, because I'm always prepared to dry my hands. And I put a little decoration above the basin with some autumnal flowers. So the theme, of course, is we're in autumn now, and the season is changing, and we're anticipating with nostalgia and a little sadness the coming of winter. So now, as a guest, I'm going to enter the tea room. But one of the things about the tea ceremony is that everyone is equal. And dating from medieval Japan, there's a low door that you have to crawl in through. Everyone crawled in through the same door. And you humble yourself in doing so. So I will go in, and you'll see me go in, and then after this, you'll see me enter, and as a guest, go to the alcove where the scroll is hanging, greet the scroll, and then go to the place where the host performs the ceremony and look at all the implements. So this is the symbol of the guest. I have the fans. And I open this rather formidable door, and I go into the tea room. I finished entering the tea room. Hi, I'm back in the tea room, and I've just entered, and I'm looking at the scroll. In the alcove. And you'll see the scroll, which is seasonal. It's the autumn moon. There's a little hermit in his hut, peering at the moon. Notice the leaves falling on the ground. The nostalgia for the warm weather gone. Looking forward to the winter and a sense of loneliness and nostalgia. And both the scroll and the flower vase try to evoke that sense. So, as the guest, I greet the scroll, and I'm bowing really to the creator, the artist. This is both a painting and a poem, expressing the mood of the season, written by a famous Japanese poet, Basho, and painted by a contemporary artist. And then I look at the flower, but I don't bow to it, which again evokes the season. I look at the scroll, and again greet the artist. And now I go to greet the implements or examine them. And I look at the kettle. I look at the tea caddy on the top shelf, the cold water container on the bottom. I admire this. I smell the incense filling the room. And as a guest, I return to my position. And I have finished my role as a guest for the time being. That gesture by the host tells the guest to make yourself comfortable. And I bring the tea bowl in with the whisk and the scoop. And now the guest and host all bow. And the host commences to purify all the implements with a silk cloth. So the tea caddy, the scoop, and the whisk have all been cleaned. The bowl has hot water in it, and it will be cleaned. The host takes the tea caddy, puts the tea in the tea bowl, opens the jar that contains the cold water, and pours hot water onto the tea. The host offers the tea bowl to the guest. And now I'm finished playing the role of the host, and I'll play the role of the guest consuming the tea. So as a guest, I take a sweet and I eat it. I ask the other guests if I may go first. I go to the host and thank the host for preparing the tea. I raise the bowl, turn the front away from me, and drink the tea. And then I examine the bowl and touch it, feel its warmth and its shape. Admire it again and return it to the host. And I'm finished drinking my tea. The host takes the tea bowl that has been returned by the guest, cleans it, and says to the guests, I'm going to finish now and clean everything. So he takes cold water, puts it in the tea bowl, cleans the whisk, and brings everything back to its original position. Along the way, he needs to clean the tea scoop because it's been used. He fills the kettle for the next time someone will use it. Closes the kettle. Closes the cold water container. And at this point, the guest will ask to view the implements. The host acknowledges. And again, since this has been used, cleans it once again. And just as he put the tea bowl out, he puts the tea caddy out. And the tea scoop. At this point, the host has finished the tea ceremony itself and will clean up the remaining implements while the guest examines the implements. The guest has returned the implements to the host after the guest has examined them, and the guest asks the host about them. The guest will inquire about the tea caddy and then the tea scoop, and the host will say, "This tea caddy comes from a town in Kyushu, Japan that I visited probably 50 years ago and was originally a mustard jar. And in our many moves, we lost the lid. So I had a new lid, a new wood lid created and converted it into a tea container. So it contains memories of many happy years in Japan, as well as being a very natural object of delightful beauty. The tea scoop was made for me when we returned from Japan by one of my fellow students who studied tea. We studied tea together in Japan, and he has visited here. Since his name is in Japanese means has the character for pine tree in it, we will call this tea scoop, we'll give it a poetic name called Wind in the Pines. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this tea ceremony, and thank you very much for your patience.
Good evening. Sado, the way of tea, makes use of many tea utensils. For example, the brazier for making hot water, the tea bowl, the container that hold the tea powder, the tea whisk that mix tea powder and hot water, and more. These utensils are handmade in Japanese craft traditions, which have a long history. In a tea room, it is essential for both host and guest to enjoy and appreciate these utensils. It is also important to appreciate the connection, the relationship of human beings to one another, and the relationship of human being to all of nature. Zen philosophy is important for the way of tea. Today, however, I will demonstrate the way of tea without a tea bowl. This presentation, which I created, is based on an old story. This is not the traditional way of tea. Let me tell the story briefly. A long time ago, an old man lived in a small village. He was very poor and had few belongings. One day, an old friend came from far away to visit. The old man wanted to make a bowl of tea in welcome, but he had no tea to offer. All he had was a plain old tea bowl. But in friendship, the old man acted out the making of tea for his friend. The friend received the empty bowl and swallowed slowly. And he said, "That was good tea," and smiled. The two old friend attitude show the value of things we cannot see. They appreciate their friendship and were playful and joyful in the open and rich world. The most important things are often invisible. The old friend also reminds us that each encounter happens only once in a lifetime. The appreciation of each moment, each encounter is a basic principle of the way of tea. 今日私がお見せする、手前は古い物語から私が創作したもので、正規のお茶ではありません。この二人の男は自由で豊かな世界に遊んでいるように見えます。本当に大切なものは目に見えないものである。出会い、この一瞬一瞬を大切に味わう。これも茶道の大切な要素です。I'm going to demonstrate MuanCha.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to now turn it over to Michael. Michael, will you please unmute?
Thank you very much to Ed-san and Kazuko-san for the two presentations. I use the term choreography in describing what temae, the procedures, mean. And after watching the two of our presenters tonight, I feel more and more that that's really an appropriate term to talk about what temae, what the procedure of the tea ceremony means. I wonder if there's any other comments or questions from our viewers tonight. Or from our presenters for that matter. who would have something they'd like to ask or to say?
Well, first, I want to say hi to Lisa Bresnak, whom I have not seen for how many years has it been? Lisa was very instrumental in helping us when we were renovating this house that most of the people on the call have visited. So hi, Lisa.
Hello, Ed. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to see that you're still interested in tea. I think we dragged you through the to the tea house, right? Didn't you come to the tea house?
No, actually, I was just trying to figure out where you had put it.
Oh, it was in the old shed. In the old
Oh,
shed. Well,
okay.
it looks quite different these days.
Yeah, I think it was in the planning stages last I was there.
Oh,
so-
wow. A long time ago then. And hi,
Yes, it's
Stephanie.
beautiful.
So Lisa, I haven't had the privilege yet, but do you have any comment on our presentations tonight?
I really enjoyed them. It put, first with Ed being so succinct on both sides and beautifully presented. And then when Kazuko was doing the silent and the movements, which were astonishing, like you felt the weight of the utensils and the bowl and the, that I could follow and knew exactly what was coming next. And so thank you, Ed, for the presentation. Thank you, Kazuko,
You're welcome.
for that amazing presentation too. So without words.
I just add that when people who practice tea for a long time, the movement, they don't think about what to do next. And because they study over and over, so movement flow naturally. They can focus completely just this moment.
Thank you.
You know,
We
if
have
I
to
can make a comment there, if I can make a comment there, I just in observing Costco, it was really driven home to me how difficult it is what she does. And even though she just said that you don't think about what you do, it requires intense concentration, even when you've got all that stuff there. Because the stuff tells you what to do. You know, oh, there's that, and I have to do this with that. But Kazuko does it without the stuff, and in such a graceful, elegant manner that it's so special, but also really only possible from a true master.
No, but because you explain very well, so that's why people understand a little bit.
Yes.
And who's our mystery guest, Diana?
Still a mystery?
Diana, Jay, do you have any comment?
Mystery.
All right. How about Stephanie Benefield? Would you have some questions or comments to our
Forgive me, I did find out how to
performance?
unmute myself. It was very, this is Diana. It was
Hi,
very
Diana.
calming and so interesting to follow the whole procedure. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Stephanie?
Yeah, thank you. I don't want you to think I'm a mystery guest. I turned on my screen. But anyway, thank you all so much for letting me join tonight. It was a lot of fun. I certainly enjoyed it. Ed, you did a great job. I love your tea room. One day I want to come and visit you there and see what it really looks like. And it's fascinating to hear that it's actually part of an old shed. I didn't know that. It looks beautiful. Yeah. And Kazuko-san, please, Komatsu-san. And I'm very happy to see what you did tonight because I haven't seen anybody do that in public before, but I do that by myself all the time because if I if I practice, I don't always get out the tea and the boil the water and all this sort of stuff. I just sit down and, go through the motions in my mind and use my body, of course. But tonight it's very nice to see that somebody else does the same thing and that other people appreciate it. I never thought of doing that in front of anybody else before. But I think it's wonderful and very interesting. And I wanted to ask, are you Omotesenke?
Actually, I am from Urasenke.
That's what I thought, because some things were a little bit different. So I thought, must be Urasenke or Mushanokoji. I wasn't sure. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing. I loved all of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank again our performers tonight. I enjoyed both very much. I almost want to be able to look at them back to front and see Kazuko-san's performance and then Ed's performance afterwards again to compare, because it's showing the same temae or very similar temae, but in a whole different way of looking at the movements, choreography, as I said before, but just something very special. So thank you all. Any other comments and questions? If not,
Wait a second. No, we haven't heard from Bob. We're not going
I'm
to
sorry.
let Bob get away. All we do is we
That's-
see his glasses and his beard, but we're not hearing any of his wisdom.
I have very little wisdom, but I gained a lot of pleasure. And knowing both tea rooms reasonably well, they are familiar and peaceful for me. The only comment that I might want to make is that the utensils are so simple and clear, but that anyone who has tried to make anything like a tea scoop, as I have as an amateur, knows how incredibly difficult it is to do even reasonably well. These are incredible crafts and they are beautiful objects in their simplicity.
So, Bob has very generously given me one of his tea scoops, which I love to use, and the having the person and the implement together, and we've even had Kazuko and Bob as a guest while we're using it. Really, I think embodies the whole spirit of what we do in tea, which is really, as I said, is an exercise or dialogue, if you will, dialogue in hospitality. So I just want to thank our two, or I guess our three guests from four, joining us tonight, and hope that this is the the start of a long interest in tea for Lisa and Diana.
thank you.
Stephanie's already
Thank you.
there.
And thank you,
She's
everybody.
already sold her soul.
Thank you to everyone.
And I'm going to actually close in saying that I appreciate everybody's participation in this and actually sharing this with everybody on the outside. This is something that we tea people know very well, but to share it with other people on the outside is actually a gift. It's really so amazing to reach out to people and show them what else is possible. And so just as a reminder, I'm going to let you know that November 13th, we're going to be having a tea ceremony, 2 sets in the tea room at the Hammond Museum. It was kind of put up at the last minute, but actually now it's a bit official. So we'll do the best we can to actually enjoy the day and share it with everybody. So we will continue this with next month, we'll have another tea ceremony, Elements of Tea, episode number 7, which will cover the, what would you call it, Michael? It was
The the tea suites, the history of the tea suites.
We've been calling it wagashi, or we've been calling it other something else. But in any case, we'll stick to wagashi. It will be the
No. We're going to be calling it Ogashi.
ogashi.
Oh, gosh. Eek.
I'll leave it to you guys. But anyway, we'll be
This will not be,
Stephanie will be
and-
our host for that one, in terms of like what she did in terms of translating for that particular event back in November of 2016. So please let's stay together and in touch, and hopefully we can have-
and next month, it will not be the fourth Tuesday. We will, because of Thanksgiving holidays, we will be holding the Elements of Tea session on the 30th, which is the fifth Tuesday of the month.
Very
See you
good.
all then.
Okay.
So
Take
moved.
care.
Everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Well,
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks,
you.
everyone.
おやすみなさい。
おやすみなさい。
it's been a side.